Hello, viewers. Welcome to yet another episode of Candid Chat with CricketGraph. Guys, normally we do have personalities from cricket fraternity or the budding cricketers, but today we have someone from a different profession who actually makes a sports person. And he has worked with the likes of Mary Kom, Saina, Nehwal, and was part of Indian contingent for London 2012, Commonwealth Games 2010, and the list goes on. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Nikhil Latey to our show today. Welcome, Nikhil.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
While welcoming you and, just on the verge of starting interaction with you, my joints and the bones and the elbows, they are really feeling excited to talk to a person who is a physiotherapist, a sports scientist. How excited you are.
Yeah, I do have to handle all of those complaints. I do.
Right, Nikhil. Let's get away with our show. निखिल, आपके जर्नी की बात करते हैं टुवर्ड्स योर प्रोफेशन ऑफ फिजियोथेरेपी. किस तरह से ये लगाव शुरू हुआ इस प्रोफेशन से? नॉर्मली वी टॉक टू स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन, दे गेट द लव ऑफ पर्टिकुलर स्पोर्ट्स एट द अर्ली स्टेज ऑफ देयर एज एंड गेटिंग टुवर्ड्स देयर करियर. आपके साथ ही अनुभव कैसा रहा? हाउ डू यू गेट टू दिस प्रोफेशन?
थोड़ा सा मेरे साथ भी ऐसे ही कुछ हुआ. बचपन में मैं स्विमिंग करता था एंड आई यूज्ड टू बी अ शॉर्ट डिस्टेंस स्विमर, 50 मीटर, 100 मीटर. And then somehow I got into long distance, and in a very short time I was able to reach close to national level. And तभी मतलब मैंने सोचा यार, अगर पहले कोई मुझे बताता that मेरा body is better suited to endurance sports rather than sprint. But this is more than 2.5 decades ago. तभी तो sports science इंडिया में इतना था नहीं, centers था नहीं, specialists नहीं था. So I thought, sounds good, let's do that. So इसलिए after 12th, like I said, there were no institutes in India for sports science. The closest thing that came to it was physiotherapy. So इसलिए after 12th, I gave my pre-medical entrance, and I was getting MBBS, but then that wasn't my passion, that wasn't my love. So then I did my physio, and I went abroad for masters in sports science. तो पहले से तो यही था that athletes को help करो, उनका performance improve करने में मदद करो, and I've been lucky to be able to turn that into a profession.
Right, Nikhil. So you told about your bit of hands-on in the swimming. So did that love for swimming or a particular sport really pulled you towards this profession, or was it just get on building and later on you discovered that yes, I can have a profession supporting the sports persons?
नहीं, I was always passionate about sport. Unfortunately, मेरा जो sport था long distance swimming. At that time उसमें you couldn't do too much क्योंकि 2008 बीजिंग ओलंपिक्स में long distance swimming became a part of the Olympics. उसके पहले तो I mean you're talking about 20th century, so तभी तो कुछ था नहीं. But then I was always passionate about competing. I was passionate about sports. I still love watching cricket, love watching multi-sport events, Olympics, Commonwealth Games, and I knew that I'm going to be associated with sport one way or the other. And tabhi I was in school. I was in 8th and 9th standard when I realized कि बाबा ऐसे sport science भी कुछ चीज होती है, and India में वो कम है, available नहीं है. So I mean, when you're in 8th and 9th standard, it's all starry-eyed dreams, right? कि हाँ मुझे करना है, वो कैसे करना है पता नहीं, बस मुझे करना है types. And then slowly you learn, you understand, and you go through the motions. Yeah.
Right. As they say, the urge to do something is bigger than what to do. And ultimately it takes you to the point where you really want to be. Right, yeah. Nikhil, Beijing Olympics की आपने बात की. How was your experience of interaction with Olympians? Mary Kom, Saina, Nehwal? How was that experience?
Mind-blowing. So one of the very first athletes I interacted with who are at that level was MC Mary Kom. So after I returned from UK in 2009, I was me and a colleague of mine, we were running a sports physio, sports science, एकदम rudimentary lab in Mumbai. हमारे पास कुछ equipment नहीं था, सिर्फ हाथ थे और दिमाग था, that's it. All equipment is a bit expensive, but we got in touch with an organization called Olympic Gold Quest. ये organization start की थी गीत सेठी और प्रकाश पादुकोण जी ने, and उनका aim है to help Indian athletes win Olympic medals, and that is why the name Olympic Gold Quest. तो I got in touch with them और उनके athletes हमारे यहाँ testing करने आने लगे. The very first athlete who came was MC Mary Kom. At that point वो 4 बार world champion रह चुकी थी, and so when I first saw her I was like, she's a champion boxer, she's nothing like, you know, you see Rocky, right? You see all these big guys, you see Unbreakable and all these things, but I saw her thin, tiny. That was until she changed into her boxing gear and started moving about. When you saw her footwork, when you saw the speed of her punches, you were like, I'm twice as heavy as her, but I'm not going in front of her at all. So that was just the start. That was just an amazing experience to see what a high performance elite athlete is capable of. And honestly speaking, ये लोग जो sport को career बनाते हैं, professionally खेलते हैं, उनका ability, strength, performance, amateur athletes के बस की बात नहीं है. It's very different. It's the difference between take any profession, take a surgeon versus someone who, you know, just puts bandages for a living, right? The skill level is very different. Years of experience hota hai, knowledge hota hai. So similarly, it's very different. So and then I'm very thankful that after that first interaction, I got to spend a lot more time with her. And actually, I was part of her team when she went for London Olympics, where we were able to get a medal. And it's been a phenomenal learning experience for me. Not just sport के बारे में, sport science के बारे में, the way the coach handled her, the way the training is done, जो बारीक चीजों का आप ध्यान रखते हो, कितना पानी पीना है, कितना सोना है, recovery कैसे करनी है, tournament का planning कैसे करना है from 6 weeks before a tournament to 2 hours before the match. All of these things I got to learn professionally, and on a personal level, I saw the kind of person she is. Unka commitment, unka hard work. I'll tell you an incident. On 5th of August 2012 was her first fight at the Olympics in London. 5th of August 2012. 5th of August is her twins' birthday. तो उनके ट्विंस जो उनके बच्चे थे, उनको लगा था कि मम्मी तो दिल्ली में ट्रेनिंग कर रही है. तो रात को बिफोर हर फाइट उनका कॉल आया कि मम्मी बर्थडे पे आ जा, एंड शी इज इन लंदन फॉर द ओलंपिक्स. एंड unbelievable person. She was able to calm her kids down, get her focus back, and win. It was just amazing to see her mental strength and her commitment to the sport. Phenomenal.
Right. Nikhil, ये commitment की आपने बात की elite athletes के. So I was coming to that point that what's that in between which, you know, separates out a good athlete or average athlete to a champion athlete. So, you know, what's the bridge in between which these guys, you know, they travel and turn into elite category athletes?
It's difficult to quantify. Honestly, it's difficult to quantify. I've been in this profession for almost 18 years now as a physiotherapist, and I've been working. I've seen athletes compete at 3 Olympics, but it's difficult to quantify. At the same time, it's very easy to identify. Okay, it's difficult to quantify, very easy to identify. You see a person train, you see the way they talk, the way they hold themselves, the way they approach their sport. It's very easy to see, but very difficult to quantify. मतलब आप किसी भी कोच को पूछो, the standard replies come. Physical ability होना चाहिए, commitment होना चाहिए, punctuality होना चाहिए. They should have a good attitude towards the sport. They shouldn't get distracted. But there is always an X factor which is very hard to identify, which sets it apart. And if you still grill me कि वो क्या हो सकता है X factor, I would say fire in the belly. आपको जीतने की कितनी इच्छा हो रही है. And as a corollary to that, as a second thing to that, is the biggest ender of sport careers is satisfaction. If you're satisfied with what you have achieved, there's not enough motivation to push harder. So in my experience, working with athletes almost for a decade and a half, I would say कि एक बार बंदा satisfy हो गया with their Commonwealth medal or Olympic medal or being part of the national team, that's it. उनका career graph just stagnates and starts coming down. So if satisfaction is what ends careers, then I would say the fire in the belly, the hunger, is what makes careers. शायद वो X factor
Right.
हो सकता है.
Right, Nikhil. And we talked about Saina and Mary of the ages of 2012 and 14, that time period. जब अब आप किसी भी एक प्लेयर के साथ किसी भी डिफरेंट स्पोर्ट्स के पर्सन के साथ डील करते हैं, सो डू यू प्रीमेडिटेट समथिंग दैट मैरी एंड साइना वाज हैविंग सच काइंड ऑफ strategical approach towards their profession? So dealing with the other sports person, you takes out those stuff and then goes about? Is it like it depends on individual identity?
It depends on individual to individual, but the basic points remain the same. I've been fortunate enough to work with boxing, Mary Kom, and some male athletes. I've been very lucky to work with wrestlers, with shooters, with archers, with athletics, with weightlifting. I've tested Mirabai Chanu in my lab as well. And table tennis, cricketers. So uski wajah se, because I've got a wide experience of seeing athletes across many sports, I can gauge them depending on the previous athletes I've seen in the same sport. I don't have to kind of relate with other sports. Lekin even if I had to, say for example, kal lawn bowls team won gold, right? So tomorrow is the lawn bowls team to me. I have no idea how that sport is played. Let me be very frank and honest. I have no idea how that sport is played. But if they come to me, I'm pretty sure I'll find a few things which are common, which is commitment, hard work, sincerity, and all of those things. Baki jo cheeze hai, understanding the sport, the way the body moves, the way the muscles work, that is my job to learn. So agar kal ko wo log mere yahan aa rahe, it is my job to learn the rules of the game, how they train, how they practice, how they compete, कौन से मसल्स यूज होंगे, कितना फोकस लगता है, कितना अटेंशन लगता है, टाइम कितना इवेंट में जाता है. लाइक बॉक्सिंग इज 3 राउंड्स ऑफ 3 minutes, whereas a badminton game can last for more than an hour. तो उस हिसाब से उनका endurance कितना होना चाहिए. So that's my job to learn and understand before the athlete comes to me. But the defining characteristics, I think, are common across the sport and across the world.
Right, Nikhil. And Nikhil, हमने स्पोर्ट्स को भी एक एरा वाइज प्रोग्रेस करते हुए देखा है. There was a time when it's like participation was the key. It still remains, of course, but later on the level of self competition within the athlete has also gone up. They want to compete with themselves, right? So how do you see the role of physiotherapy grown up from one phase to other, and how it's like going further? What's the main relevance?
I think, okay, let me just tell you quickly how this change has happened. It started with 2008 Beijing Olympics, Abhinav Bindra winning the gold medal. Okay, in cricket we've had our stars. We had Kapil Dev's team winning in '83. We had the World Cup win in 2011. We had the T20 win in 2007. I remember I was in UK for my studies, and I was glued to the laptop watching that match. It was amazing. So cricket has had its icons, had its people you can look up to, has had its winning moments that inspire the next generation of athletes. For other sports, non-cricket sports, it was Beijing 2008 Abhinav Bindra's gold. And suddenly there was a ripple across the entire athletic fraternity, non-cricket fraternity, that yes, we can. The second thing that happened was in 2012, Vijay Kumar won a silver. So tab tak in the armed forces, the people used to think, Afsar log medal lete hain, hame kahan milega? But then Vijay Kumar won a silver, and that sent another ripple. And what happened in Tokyo, unbelievable. A hockey medal after 40 years and an athletics gold. And that one gold has resulted in so much self-confidence in our athletes that you saw it in Commonwealth Games, where we got medals in long jump, we got medals in high jump, we got medals in 3000 steeplechase, we got medals in javelin throw. I mean, across the board, it was far more diverse. So yes, the number of medals may have been slightly lower than the last edition, but the number of sports that we got it from was
Correct.
definitely
The diversification in the sports we talk about. Yeah.
part. So I would say that has, I mean, it's a chicken and egg thing. Once you get result, it inspires the next generation. But until the generation is inspired, you don't get results. Luckily, the chicken is there. Now we have to count the eggs. In terms of the role of a physiotherapist, honestly speaking, in my very honest opinion, physios have no job on field, right? On the field, सबसे important person is the coach. I'm talking about the support to the athlete. Number one is always the coach. Nothing happens without the coach. Number two is the strength and conditioning coach. तो कोच आपके टेक्निक के बारे में देखता है, स्ट्रेंथ एंड कंडीशनिंग कोच आपके फिटनेस के बारे में देखता है. अगर ये दो लोग अपना काम सही तरीके से कर रहे हैं, then your chances of injuries come down significantly. So the job of a physio to handle injuries and rehab, nutritionist to make sure आपका food is good, mental trainer to help you approach situations in a better way. All of us don't have to be on field all the time. We can come only as needed. Now, unfortunately, in India, like with results, like with high quality coaching, like with infrastructure, even these other professions are a bit missing, especially strength and conditioning. I mean, there are many trainers in the country, but very few specialist sport and conditioning coaches, strength and conditioning coaches for sport. और उसकी वजह से क्या होता है that physios end up coming on field, physios end up taking some of the conditioning plans, physios end up being required on field more because injuries ज़्यादा हो जाती हैं. So as the country progresses, as we get more high quality coaching and strength and conditioning coaches in the country, there are so many people who are upgrading themselves and upskilling themselves in order to be able to do that job. I think that physios will be required a little less, but when they are required, they're required for their job, which is injury care, rehab, return to sport.
Right. Nikhil, you set it up in context of all the sports, but we are having our viewership to a larger extent for budding cricketers. Yeah. So, किस तरह के injuries लेकर cricketers आपके पास आते हैं, and how do you tackle them?
So one of the most commonest injuries that cricketers come to me with are not related to cricket. They are related to fatigue. Because लोग अपना रिकवरी पे ध्यान नहीं देते. रिकवरी पे ध्यान नहीं देते मतलब सिंपल चीज है सर. Eat well, sleep well, drink enough water. अगर आप ठीक से खाना नहीं खाओगे, ठीक से पानी नहीं पियोगे, जितना घंटा सोना चाहिए उतना घंटा सोओगे नहीं, तो आप एक ट्रेनिंग सेशन से अगले ट्रेनिंग सेशन तक फटीग आपका कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो जाता है. And it continues because these are lifestyle habits. Eat well, sleep well, drink enough water is lifestyle habits. So when you're very young, 10 to 16 years of age, तभी आपका body growth spurt चालू रहता है. There's a lot of energy going into making you taller and more mature. So तभी अगर if you're not eating well, not sleeping well, not having enough water, तो body में काफी सारा fatigue आ जाता है, which leads to aches and pains around the shoulder, the back, the calves, the buttocks. Same thing happens beyond the age of 22 also. जब आपका ग्रोथ फेज कंप्लीट हो गया है, आपका कंपटीशन लेवल बढ़ते जा रहा है, बॉडी पे लोड बढ़ते जा रहा है, if you're not taking care of these basics, then you get injuries. And when they come to me and I touch the muscle, it's tired, and it's not one muscle, it's throughout the body. So that is the most common stuff that people come to me with, which is fatigue. And I think this relates to non-athletes as well, but cricketers mostly fatigue की वजह से आते हैं. Now, when it comes to genuine injuries, then it's the stuff that you always hear about. You hear about rotator cuff issues, you hear about spine issues, including the disc popping out. You hear about knee issues where either the meniscus or the ligament gets involved, or you hear about the ankle, जहाँ twist होने की वजह से there's a damage to the ligament there. So those are the common issues that come to me. But you put these four things: the shoulder, the lower back, the knee, and the ankle on one side, and the fatigue issues are still more than that. So
Right.
yeah. So if anyone who's listening to us right now, a budding cricketer, I would just say, भाई खाने पे ध्यान दो, सोने पे ध्यान दो, ढेर सारा पानी पियो. Really works.
Right. So for all the injuries which Nikhil has talked about, we have one solution: the Prophysio. Let's talk about Prophysio now, Nikhil.
Yes.
What is Prophysio actually?
It's a bit funny. It's like when you have an app and a pro version of that app, where you get more benefits and such. Well, that was the idea behind Prophysio. You have physio and you have the pro version of that.
Pro version of.
And it draws on my experience of the last decade and a half. And we basically have 4 pillars that we work on. So number 1 is, of course, physio. So I take care of injuries, rehab, muscles, bones, joints, injuries, all of those things before surgery, after surgery. Your standard stuff that physios all over the world do. The second is strength and conditioning. So we have strength and conditioning coaches here who work and who are specialists in sports conditioning. And my SNC people, they basically handle the, so once the athlete is injury free, they are fit, but they are not match fit. So जो gap बचता है between fit and match fit or training fit, that strength and conditioning part is handled by them. So they handle at the moment table tennis players, cricketers, especially fast bowlers. A lot of fast bowlers end up coming here because they need a lot of strength and power. The third pillar that we work on is recovery. Like I said, number 1 thing I get is fatigue. So fatigue come करने के लिए, whether it is releases, whether it is full body icing, whether it is compression, whether it is that's percussion guns, or just hands-on releases with me releasing those tired muscles. That is the third thing that we do. A lot of people come for recovery. And the last thing is my second specialization, which is sports science. So we have a proper sports science lab here where we do high-end analysis for, the gas analysis for VO2s. We do biomechanical analysis. We have motion sensors. We have gait analysis. We have pressure plates. So lots of boys with toys to check your biomechanics, check your ability, your fitness, your all of those things. Yeah. So, yeah.
Right. So do we have kind of stuff getting your angle right of throwing the ball?
Yeah.
So, such kind of stuff Prophysio offers if the cricketers come down to you?
We have full motion sensor, 13 sensors on your body. We can bring them out on the field. You can do a proper bowl, and we can go back, analyze, see all the graphs, and figure out where you're going wrong. We do video analysis, motion analysis, gait analysis. We do all of that. Yeah.
That's just amazing to hear, Nikhil, really.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of fun. I mean, boys with toys, right? I think most of the video games are targeted towards 18 plus year olds who can afford to pay for the game, right? Boys with toys always works.
Right, the term the boys and toys. So great to listen. Well, Nikhil, we can see how much effort it takes to win an Olympic or a Commonwealth medal. But really, there's a team working behind an athlete, and physiotherapist is one equivalent, who is accountable or whose effort should be, comprehended for that medal. So we really good insight from you. There's a lot to talk about the sports science. We all love to talk about, to hear from you. But let's keep it for some other time. We will have a good session once more. But thanks a lot for sharing your insights in the sports science. And we are sure till people like Nikhil Latey are there to support our sports person, India will go a long way in the field of athletics and maybe any sports. Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.